Testing, testing. All right, guys. Good evening and welcome. My name is Stefanos, and I'll be the one to spread the fog tonight. Last week, I decided that every week I'll have a special guest on with me, with every episode because it's a lot more fun like that. It's fun to get new perspectives on different things. So today, I have with me my friend Madeline Welsh, who actually is not Welsh.
Hi.
So that's Madeline, guys. Madeline, do you have anything to say? Just
I don't know. I'm really excited though. I'm really, really excited about this. So I hope it goes well.
Good, good, good. I'm glad. I'm glad to have you on tonight. For those of you who don't know, Madeline is an old friend of mine, aka 1 year. Um, she was with me. She is with me in the honors college, and she was with me in the honors dorm last year, such as Ben was last from the last show. Today, I actually will be archiving the show, and I see it recording right now, so I'm very happy. And I will try to podcast it later if I ever find out how to podcast something. So hopefully I will. Anyways, tonight we will be talking about a lot of things you already know about. So things like the Boogeyman, Slender, the Grim Reaper, and we'll see what else we come up with at the time. But to start off the show, I'm going to say this, as I always do. Neither I nor Madeline's views represent the views of Stetson, etc., yada yada. Like literally, I have yada 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 written down right here. Nor its population and such. And one more time, let me take this moment to inform you that this show is not meant to insult anyone, offend anyone, or meant to change anyone's thought patterns, beliefs, etc., etc., etc. We only want you to be entertained by this show and enjoy it. All right, and I'm also a little saddened to still say we do not have a live call-in feature. So if you call in, we will not be able to put you on the radio, but we will be able to answer you, and I will allow, cause the last few weeks I have allowed for people to call during the music break. I would prefer you do, but if you do not want to call during the music break, you can call before. We still will answer it, but you won't hear yourself on the radio just yet. If you want to call in, the number's going to be 386-822-8770. And don't worry, I'll say the number a few times within the show. And that's about it. All right, so Madeline, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm pretty sure you're going to say yes. Do you remember last year when Gherkin and I were in the...
Yes. I do.
All right, a little closer to the microphone. There we go, yeah. Just so we could hear you, all right? Gherkin, my RA, Gherkin, who will be in the show with us in 2 weeks, is actually a big fan of Slenderman like I am, the popular culture and everything. So what happened was we played Slenderman one night with the entire house, basically. Gherkin was doing the movements, I was doing the view part, the mouse part. And I think you remember, Madeline, because everyone was screaming. Yeah, so everyone was screaming because we turned around, there's Slenderman, like, it was a lot of fun. But to tell you the truth, Slenderman's not new. It really isn't. Slenderman is one of the older myths, a lot older than a lot of the ones you know now. It dates back to the 1500s. That's the earliest record that we can find of him that is, how would I say, that is recognizable. Not including the ones that are sort of like him, but sort of not like him. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm going to start talking about the mythos with Madeline, and I'm actually going to ask her some questions. I found a list on the slenderman.wikia.com. Obviously, they like Slenderman. And they actually have some things about the original mythos from the 1500s, and they have some things about the contemporary mythos from like Marble Hornets and the video game. So I'm gonna ask Madeline. I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna ask you to say, is this the original or the contemporary version? All right.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
Is it okay if I have no idea?
Yeah. No, it's like a quiz bowl.
Okay.
Like I ask you a question, then you give me an answer.
All right.
All right. Just make sure you're close to the microphone.
Okay.
All right. So, first off, Slenderman actually has a face, but it's not visible on film. Original or recent or contemporary?
Contemporary?
False.
Oh.
It's actually original. In the new one, in the contemporary version of Marble Hornets, no matter what, Slenderman does not have a face. He's a faceless menace, which I think might be a little scarier. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely.
And why do you think so?
I don't know. I mean, if you can't see what's attacking you, it's way scarier than if you can see it. It's just true.
All right. All right. This one actually I thought was very interesting. Slenderman takes control of the victims. Original or contemporary?
Original?
That's false. In the original one, he actually impersonated people and gained their trust.
Oh.
So that's what I found very interesting about this. This creature, who oftentimes kidnapped mostly kids, would gain their trust by becoming sort of human, and then bring them out to the forest often, and that's where it all happened. And actually, at that point, this is another question, but no, not fun to ask this as a question. He actually had rituals, sort of, as to disembowel
Ugh.
the kid.
Like, to what end? Why would he do that? Did he eat them, or was he just bored, or what?
Oftentimes, myths said that he did that to bad children. This is sort of like a bedtime story, which you get into more later. That sadistic parents said, hey, if you don't behave, the Slender Man will get you.
That's terrifying.
I know, right? But we'll actually be reading a lot more things in the future about that. Not in the future, but like in a little while. All right. That's what I really liked about it. All right. So is this the original contemporary? Slender Man will aggressively attack its victims.
Contemporary?
You are really bad at this game.
Sorry. Don't know anything about Slenderman.
I know, but I mean, like, yeah, I know. You don't.
I'm trying, okay?
Yeah, you're trying. I understand that. Actually, in the original, he was more violent, and he actually did not care who saw him. In the contemporary one, he actually is much more secretive, and he doesn't go around saying, "Oh yeah, now I'm gonna kill you, Jane Doe or John Smith." You know, he just doesn't go around doing that. It's all secretive, because if you see in the game, it's sort of like no one knows about the Slenderman except for you, because you see him. You know what I'm saying? Marble Hornets also, the new contemporary version, implies that as well, that only a select few people could actually see him at any time. Give me 1 second. That is a call-in. You're with the Strange and the Weird. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. I have a question for Steph.
Yes.
I want to know what Steph thinks of the new Doctor Who. It's the Peter Capaldi's guy that cast as Doctor Who.
All right. Thank you very much. And who's this?
This is Vince.
All right, Vince. All right. Well, we just got a question from Vince, and Vince was asking what I personally thought of the new Doctor Who, Peter Capaldi. Not Slenderman, but Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi is not Slenderman, if that's what you're asking. But I personally think that Peter Capaldi would make a great Doctor Who, and I think he will do fabulous on the show. Even though people think, I've heard this a lot about the Doctor Who, people think he's old and whatnot. I think he'll be just fine. He's going to be fantastic. Thank you very much, Vince, for your call-in. Second call-in. Really happy about that. Anyways, where was I just a second ago? I was talking about something before Vince called in.
Well, you were talking about Slenderman.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know. We're talking about Slenderman, really. I did not notice. What was I saying before?
He wasn't as aggressive, or he was, or
there we
something.
go.
Okay.
All right. So Slenderman was actually a lot more aggressive in the past, and he actually didn't care. And as Marble Hornets showed, he was much more secretive in the new one. All right, this one's going to be pretty obvious. Slenderman in the original actually mutilated animals as well. So, for example, I'll read this to you later. In this one story we have from a German man, which a lot of this myth stems from Germany, what happens is the Slender Man actually goes and hangs a cow.
Why?
Sort of as a warning. I think it's psychological warfare. If you see with Vlad the Impaler,
Mm-hmm.
he literally impaled his people on his prisoners of war or dead soldiers on stakes and held them up, showing the people, hey, look what we did to your guys. You know, I think in a way that's also Slenderman doing his war call. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, if he attacks children, like, he's using a cow as a warning to the children?
Well, if you think about it, in the 1500s, I think everyone was sort of in small family areas, not giant urban cities. So that's what he had available to him without killing the parents first. You see what I'm saying?
Would he do that?
There have been reports of people going missing after their children have gone missing. Apparently, which I find also very interesting because usually the Slender Man is depicted as only having attacked children, which is very interesting indeed. And then apparently attacks kids.
Maybe he was part of a tag team. Like he would get the kids and somebody else would come and get the parents.
Slender Man and Slender Man's cousin. Hey Slender, you want to go bowling? If you don't play Grand Theft Auto, you do not understand the reference. All right, let's do like another 3 questions. How about 2? All right. Slenderman is under active watch by the government.
I have no idea. I'm gonna say contemporary again because I really want that to have been right at least once.
Nope.
Oh my god.
This is the original. The original actually has apparently the government or government. I'm not even sure what this means. I think this might be actually the government. The government, also called the optic nerve, is an unknown organization or bureau that kept watch over Slenderman. So apparently Slenderman was not alone to that degree, which is pretty interesting when I think about it. What if there are slender men and women? That might be a little awkward. All right, let's do one more, and let's see if you get this one right. If you get it right, I'll give you a prize.
Hooray.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you sure you're ready?
I am ready.
Slenderman has no connections with legendary beings, such as, let's say, God, or angels, or pixies, fairies, etc., etc., etc.
Contemporary?
No.
What? But
In the original mythos, Slenderman had no relationships whatsoever with any mythical beings. In the new one, he has connections with someone called the Rake. So once again, we have in both the original and the contemporary version more than one entity which Slenderman is involved with, which I think is a very interesting thing. Madeline,
Steph.
you did not get any questions right.
I know.
It was a 50-50 shot.
I'm
If
sorry.
we did binomial distribution, do you know how bad that would be?
Sounds like biology terms, so no.
It's biostatistics, yes. I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
stuck on that test, which I got a D on, so I'm happy. All right. So those are some things about the original mythos that happened. But actually, that was from Germany. And we're going to take a step back from Germany for now. And we're going to go a few thousand years into the past with Egyptian hieroglyphics and things like that. I want you, Madeline. Give me 1 second. We have another call in. You're on The Strange and the Weird with Stephanos and Madeline. How can I help you?
Hi. I was wondering one thing. You were talking about the original mythos in Germany, yeah? The Ritter in about 1540. That was from this one picture, which turned out to be a hoax. What do you have to say about that?
All right. We were
Thank
just.
you.
All right. No problem. What's your name?
My name is Thomas.
Thomas. All right. Thank you very much, Thomas.
No problem.
All right. We were just asked by Thomas about the Richter. The Richter I was about to go into later, and the Richter is actually a 16th century woodcut about of a creature, but there was a hoax about it. One of them was fake. It was fake after they did it, and it was proven a hoax. Though yes, it has been proven a hoax. There's actually still other. It's sort of like a copy has been proven hoax. There is an original, and then there is a hoax copy, from what I have done my research on. And not only that, there's a lot of other things. For example, when we talk about der Grob, I'm not going to pronounce this right. The Grovman, or the tall man in the 16th century. There's another woodcut, and also we could go to Hans Baldug's paintings from the Renaissance era, who did a lot of paintings. For example, the 3 Ages of Women and Death, which have been X-rayed and showed different creatures in the background with death. And almost all the time, these pictures have something in common, such as an hourglass, which we find in most of these pictures, including the Richter. And the Richter, not only does it only have one picture, it actually has a few pictures of the Richter. So even though a few of them are hoaxes, there seem to be several originals as well. Even though I've never seen them in person, which I would love to one day. But thank you very much for that call in, Thomas. All right. So we're going to go a little bit back from Germany, as I said. And we're going to go all the way and talk about a few things. The ancient hieroglyphics, just to connect the world a little together, because this is what I like to do. I like to connect the world a little together. The ancient hieroglyphics from Egypt were said to have portrayed, or actually do portray, several multi-men armed, among others, among the hieroglyphics. And this guy was said to be the thief of gods. Oftentimes, we find Slenderman actually as a multi-armed creature, or at least with tentacles, in both modern, in both contemporary, and mostly actually the original mythos, which I find to be very interesting as well. Why tentacles? What do you think about that, Madeline?
They're gross and scary. That's why. Nothing with tentacles is ever good.
I was going to make a really inappropriate reference, but I'm not going to do that.
Please don't.
I'm not going to do that. But not only that, there was actually Mayan priests, Aztec priests, my bad. Aztec priests, they appear to be removing hearts for sacrifices with 3 or more arms. So even for the Aztecs, we go to the Aztecs, we go to the Egyptians, and we even go to Babylonia, there are references of the Slenderman. And it doesn't even stop in Europe. There's actually, there's these beings in Japan or in Asia called yokai, which are demons and spirits. Have you ever heard of these, Madeline?
I haven't.
Well, these yokai are often depicted in different ways. Humans, sometimes humanoid features, sometimes even completely monstrous. But there's this one known as the Zumberabo, I believe it's called. It's called the Faceless Ghost or Yokai, which apparently is deeply terrifying. It is literally a faceless ghost. If you see right here, Madeline, that's a picture.
That is terrifying.
I know. It's just a white face. And there are also other yokai. The Ashinagan, Tengan, which are spirits with long legs and arms. So when we take this into account, we can see that the mythos of Slenderman was not only present in 1500s Germany, but was present in similar forms long before the German forms that we know of currently. And there is obviously also a North American version of this. Have you ever heard of the Wendigo, Madeline?
No, I don't think so.
Well, the Wendigo is actually a Native American spirit, which was said to be a skeletal-like thing, which is also how Slenderman used to be depicted with give me one second. I keep forgetting the name. I just said it too like several times. With the Ritter, very similar in formation with his skeleton and the cannibalistic. It was in his cannibalistic ways. He was often depicted to be with famine and decay. So when that happened, when you saw the Wendigo, you knew something bad was coming along. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I find very interesting. It's not just, like I said last show, it's not just one part of the world secludedly has this myth. It's that multiple parts of the world have similar myths. And this is also another reason why people think dragons or dragon-like creatures were a possibility, because cultures from all around the world, including the Greek culture and the Chinese culture, had very similar dragons at the same time. How would news be able to spread so fast if it was just one single entity or one single story for the creatures? So the same could be applied to a lot of superstitions and fairy tales. But what I wonder is, why are we so sadistic enough to make it to ourselves? Or are we masochistic in all reality?
So, do you believe in Slenderman?
Do I believe in him per se? No. Personally, I do not believe the Slenderman is true, but I believe there's a lot unknown about superstitions and the supernatural, which we will never be able to fully comprehend and understand, which I find that's actually the fun part. So we're going to go back to the Ritter. And I'm basically going to tell you what I've read here on the website, which is, once again, theslenderman.wikia.com. And for all the new, and for everyone who's new that just came in, our phone number is 386-822-8770. Feel free to call in at any time and we'll gladly answer. All right, and back to the Slender Man. Der Ritter, also known as the Knight, was a woodcut dating around 1540 by the German Hans Freckenberg. These are German names, by the way, if you
Clearly.
didn't notice. Who apparently disappeared around 1543, just 3 years after the supposed woodcuts were made. It was discovered in the castle around 1883, and they were really his style. You know, when you look at a Picasso, you know it's a Picasso. When you hear a Mozart, you know it's a Mozart. It was very similar in that way. Many interpreted this skeletal being to be something similar to the Slender Man because oftentimes it'd have multiple arms or be stealing a child, and it'd always have the bloody hourglass with it, you know, and the hourglass was very, very prominent with the Slender Man, or rather the Richter. And eventually it actually, that was only one of the similarities. This is another German myth. It's called Schwalenkwald. Schwalenkwald. That sounds fun. This is something very similar to the Slender Man as you see in the original mythos, as in it contorts its limb, it preys on children, and it always lurks in the forest. What I find interesting, what I want to talk about later, Madeline, make sure to remind me,
Okay.
is horror in the forest. Just make sure to remind me so we can
Why
talk
do
about.
people even go into forests? It's always bad.
I know,
You should
right?
never go into a forest.
It's always dark. So we'll talk about the forest and its connection to horror in the second part of the show after a music break. But that's one thing I found interesting. But actually, there was a poem that discussed the Schlankwald. Would you the Schlankwald, whatever you want to call it. Madeline, do you want to read it?
I don't speak German, and I'm terrible at pronouncing things in other languages.
But it's not in German; it's in English.
Oh, is
It's been
it?
translated into English. I
no,
mean, why
I'm
else? I can't read German either. Do you want to read it?
Where is it?
It's right here. It says poem that discussed Schlankwald.
Oh, I guess that's how you say that.
I
but
guess.
It's just ridiculous.
Would you like to read it or no?
No, you can read it.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna actually read the whole thing because I'm too lazy. I'm going to read you some tidbits here and there, because this is what we all find in the contemporary Slender Man. He hides in the fringes of your vision, brief glimpses of the distortion. He slithers and withers before your eyes, reaching for you, limbs contorted. And we often find that in the new Slender Man. When you're walking behind you, he's always just right at the edge of your vision. You start screaming, and then you look at him, and then he just comes at you. You know? Before you know it, your children are taken, and now it's come down to you. His breath is oppressive, his presence acidic. He feels pity is undue. This shows us, as we said in the original mythos before, that Slender Man was actually very, very violent. I mean, come on. He feels pity is undue. I mean, what do you think? I do not think he's like, hey, guys, I'm just going to stalk you for a little while. No, I feel like he's going to rip my arms off.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
Add them to his collection. Apparently he had many.
trophy collections of arms, right? No, forget the ears and the scalps, just get the arms.
Ugh.
Suddenly, trapped in his grasp so tight, you struggle to break yourself free. He laughs and gurgles and screeches with glee. He turns your head for you to see. You children are crying through their eyes are removed. They collapse still and silent, his arms, legs, bend pulling you closer. The man's eyes dark and violent.
God. When is that from?
This is, I believe, also somewhere from the 16th century, somewhere around there, I believe. It does not say on the website, which is inaccurate now, because it does not have it. But once again, it's one of those child stories where people are scared, or at least trying to scare their children for some odd reason, to keep them so they do not go into forest or they don't do something stupid. But I think what I'm so intrigued about is that they made an entire culture based off this. And they made an entire fairy tale and an entire, now pulp culture, based off this one creature. And even though it may have been fake, and the first person who did it knew it was fake, it's been in so many cultures long before and long after. And that's what I think I like about this a lot. And after that, it's once again the 16th century as well. We have, I'm gonna hate pronouncing this, De Grovman, also known as the Tall One. The Tall One is similar to the Slender Man, but is disfigured. If only white spheres were his eyes should be. As we saw in the last poem, he actually had dark eyes, apparently. But this one has white eyes or white spheres actually. I want to come into the coloration later on as well. Please remind me of that.
Okay. Forests and colors.
Forest and colors, yes. So what I wanted, I'm sorry, I just lost my track again. Yeah. So what I find interesting about this guy is he actually wasn't that bad.
What?
He wasn't a bad guy.
But he like kills children.
No, not this guy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were considering them like one entity.
Oh, in mythology, they are very similar entities.
Oh, okay.
If you want to think about it like this, let's think about it like this. Everyone I've said is a Slender Man, but a different race of Slender Man.
Okay, so there are many.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
Because all these myths happen around the 16th century, and they're all at the same time different. You know, one has dark eyes, one has white spheres. The other one is just a tall, slanky man on the side. You know what I'm saying? All of them have the same proportions. They could all change their body. They could all stand up 10 feet tall, whatever. So if you want to think about it like this is the same thing I was talking about in my aliens talk 2 weeks ago. If you see two things that look similar but are different, I mean, look at humans. We're all different. You look at a Greek person, you look at an Asian, there's different bone structures, there's different skin colorations. There's so many different things just in humans that if there were another creature, why could we not expect the same?
It's a good point.
Yeah, it's just biology in a way.
But now you're implying that it was real, sort of. So
I'm implying if there was a creature.
Oh, okay.
I did
Okay.
say if. I'm pretty sure I did.
I'm sure you did, but
I'm sure I did. But if there was a Slender Man, he'd be behind you right now.
I'm not gonna look.
No, you're not gonna look?
No,
No, why not?
just not.
Okay. So this guy actually was funny because the kids would run into the woods, start playing, and when they're playing in the woods, the Dergovman would follow them and actually try to get them out of the woods. Isn't that weird?
Like to protect them, or just because he didn't want them in his woods?
It's never set. It's never clearly stated, but it's implied he actually wants to protect them because he what he does is he chases the kids until they go out of the woods and repent for what they did, or until they tell their parents. So he wouldn't leave. I'll quote the website on this. To the woods at night. Bad children who crept into the woods at night would be chased by the Gorvman, and he wouldn't leave them alone until he caught them. That's not good. Or the children told the parents what he or she had done.
Okay.
So in a way, I think this is sort of the bedtime punishment story. That you're going to get punished by a bigger entity, bigger than any of us. But at the same time, you can't run away from it. And apparently there's a German journal reading, which I want to read. This one's really cool because I read it earlier. There's a German journal, an old journal that was that a man wrote after his boy was kidnapped. I'm gonna read this to you quickly, and this is actually one of the few accounts from the journal, from the mythology, that has this specific Slender Man stealing a kid or possibly even killing him. My child, my Lars, he is gone, taken from his bed. The only thing we found was a scrap of black clothing. It feels like cotton, but is softer, thicker. Lars came into my bedroom yesterday, screaming at the top of his lungs, "The angel is outside." I asked him what he was talking about, and he told me some nonsense fairy story about the Gorfman. I hate that word. He said he went into the groves by our village and found one of our cows dead, hanging from a tree. I thought nothing of it at first, but now he is gone. We must find Lars. My family must leave before we are killed. I am sorry, my son. I should have listened. My God, forgive me.
Gosh.
Yeah. Apparently, this is a translation dating around 1702. Some of the words are probably a little bit inaccurate. And yes, you can blink at this angel. It's just still not wise. Weeping Angels reference.
I got it.
All right, just make sure. And what I like about that is, at the same time, it has that real feel of horror into it, and I got goosebumps reading it. I don't know. Maybe you got goosebumps hearing it, but it had a feel that this man was legitimately terrified for some reason. And even though it might not have been an angel, you could always claim it was a person. It was a person dressed as the Gorman or something like that. And it's definitely a big possibility. I mean, who doesn't love to play off myths? Every Halloween we go out dressed as Death. We go out dressed as the Headless Horseman without a horse. And we go dressed as...
Miley Cyrus.
Oh, God, please, no. No one dresses as Miley Cyrus this year. Or the foam finger. Don't dress as the foam finger. No offense, Miley. But you're not listening, so it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, where was I? So yeah, every year we go out. I just got a Facebook message, Weeping Angel reference. Every year we go out and we dress up as something scary. So how could we not say that a human didn't dress up as something scary just to kidnap this kid? Or to provide terror in the town so that this myth could be more fortified inside the beliefs and the culture of this town. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
Maybe
the kid orchestrated the whole thing. Maybe he hated his dad. He was like, I'm going to kill one of the cows, string it up on a tree, and then freak out, and then he won't believe me, and then I'll leave. Just to get back at him, or whatever.
Oh, no, my dad didn't give me water. or
it's like a basic life necessity.
Well, I mean, they didn't have Wi-Fi back then.
True.
So I don't know what he'd get mad about.
Yeah.
Maybe he took his favorite doll. I don't know, Hey Doll, something like that. You can't perform voodoo no more, son. But Dad. So yeah, that is the basics of the Slenderman, and we will be referencing the Slenderman a lot more in the rest of the show. We'll also be talking about Death and some of the similarities between Death and the Slenderman. If you also do realize, what I want you to think about while we're on the music break in about 5 minutes, that the Slenderman is actually very, very similar to what the Americans call the Boogeyman.
That's a good point.
The Boogeyman, no matter what version you listen to, he comes to kids. And, of course, kids. I don't know why. Are all of these creatures pedophiles? But these creatures, for some reason, like to prey on kids. And you have the Boogeyman oftentimes under your bed or in your closet.
He's often there.
He's often there.
Often.
And he comes out of the closet and he takes you. Or he comes out from under the bed and then he takes you. But I'll be sharing a personal story of mine with the Boogeyman. I've met him.
You've met him?
I've met him.
Okay.
In my dreams.
Oh, okay.
I'll be sharing you a personal story of mine after the music break, with similar creatures, or at least similar experiences in the way that I have had this type of culture instilled into my mind, and to show how it was instilled into my mind. If you guys want to call us during the music break, give a shout out to anyone from any place or do anything, I'm going to give you my phone number one more time. 386-822-8770. I lied. I'm going to give it to you one more time after that. 386-822-8770. We're going to be going on to music break right now. Call in if you'd like, and we'll see you guys in another 5-10 minutes. All right. So I promised you guys that I would tell you a story about mine, sort of referencing the Boogeyman, but before I do, I'm going to tell you this. I remember referencing Hans Baldig in his painting of the Slenderman and the three ages of woman and death. I posted that on the official Facebook page, facebook.com/The Strange and Weird. And you can now see the picture and what it looked like when it was x-rayed. It was x-rayed for insurance purposes to make sure it was the correct one. And they actually found out that the painting had several arms removed off of stupidly Death, who once again has an hourglass, as several of the original Slendermans did. So if you'd like to take a look at that, please do. It's on the official Facebook page of The Strange and the Weird.
What's the deal with the hourglass?
The hourglass, I believe that, as any hourglass does, it symbolizes time. And with time comes death. And with death comes death. I guess. He was probably... this is why I want to talk about Death in this segment, too. Because he acts a lot like the Angel of Death, or the Grim Reaper, from what we know in some of his myths. But at the same time, he singles out children a lot. So maybe sort of like the the pre-adolescent death, sort of. Why it would explain. It would be the reason for a lot of parents grieving when they go, "Oh, my child died so young from dysentery, like on Oregon Trail," and they'd want to put it on a reason. Oh, the Slenderman came. He said something about angels. The Slenderman came.
Right.
And that I think that might be one of the reasons. Now that I think about it, about this, which is very interesting. All right. Before I share my personal story, I'm going to give you the phone number one more time. Call in at any time, 386-822-8770. All right. So my personal story with the boogeyman. When I was young, when I was about, I think around 4 or 5 years old, I had really, really bad nightmares. All right. These are nightmares where I literally woke up at midnight, at 5 a.m., at 4 a.m., screaming at the top of my lungs, and I would still be sleeping. I wasn't awake.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
creepy.
I'd still be sleeping, and I actually still remember them very vividly. Several of them I was burning.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, no, that was actually the last one I had. One of the last ones I had, where I was actually literally burning alive inside a car, with my uncle and my sister next to me. But
Ugh,
well, no,
so horrible.
they weren't next to me in the dream. They were literally next to me, and that's why I got it.
Oh, okay.
It was sort of like
It's still
claustrophobia and heat,
Ugh.
because it was the car had no AC. We were in Greece.
Mm.
So
Oh, you dreamt it while you were in a car.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's why I sort of had the fire thing where oh my
Okay.
god, I'm burning, and I woke up screaming fire, fire, fire. And my cousins remember several accounts of that way before Greece too. So while I'm looking at back in my past, I remember very vividly several dreams where I was so scared, and my mother oftentimes came in to console me while I was still sleeping. So here I was dreaming of something always under my bed. I had my number 5 red race car bed, and I love my race cars. I love my Thompson tank at that point, and I had the bed, and while I was sleeping, I always felt that there was a presence under the bed when in my dreams, and I would look down and I see something slip. I see like a few fingernails go.
Ugh,
I mean,
so scary.
big, long, green fingers with yellowish fingernails. I mean, who isn't scared of that? And I think one time there's like a really big blob. I don't even know what in God's name that was. It was like a big blob at the end of my door, which I think is actually a human being, because oftentimes my mom told me that I reacted worse when she tried to console me. So for example, when I'd had these dreams, she'd try to put her hand on my lap, and I'd freak out trying to get her hand off my lap. And I remember so many times that green hand just went right on my leg.
Wow.
And I think the boogeyman and the Slenderman and other myths have infiltrated our cultural system so far that they get to the point that you have nightmares and you don't even know about it until years and years later. You might have heard it in a stupid little Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, which is my favorite personification of the Grim Reaper personally, because it's so much fun. He's Jamaican. But it gets into our culture so far that I personally have had my own nightmares about it, and not just once, not just twice, but several times, and it's very consistent in how it's formed. I scream in the middle of the night, someone comes in, I see a blob at my doorway, I scream more, and then they're like, oh hey, what's up? And then they put their hand on my head, and I'm like being choked to death.
God.
You know what I'm saying?
It's horrible.
Yeah, and I'm not the only type of person with these dreams either. There's so many people have had dreams similar, and I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Well, so many people have had dreams similar. Some were a lot more scarred than I was, and some of them have lasted a lot longer than mine have, because mine stopped at around age 11 or 12. Actually, most of my life still I've had it.
Wow.
Until next year. Actually, no, until 3 years.
Wow.
But these dreams, I think, that we have are sort of our personifications of our fears, and oftentimes I think the subliminal messages of the boogeyman and stuff get into our head so much that we literally scream in our own dreams, and we don't know the difference between reality and fiction at that point when we're so young, because we see our bed as we would in a dream, and we don't know the difference between a dream, and we don't know the difference between reality at that point because we're so young.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
now people know about lucid dreaming, and you could actually control your dreams. I do not recommend it. Sleep paralysis is one of the most terrifying things you'll ever experience. I have not experienced this, but I've heard this from many people who've actually tried it. Do not try it at home, kids.
You sounded like you were like well experienced. You're like, don't do that.
I've studied.
I haven't done it. But don't do it.
I've studied into it a lot. I actually did my research on it because I was considering trying to do lucid dreaming. And after I did my research, the same way I did my research on tulpas, I'm like, no, I do not want to do that.
There's an X-Files episode about tulpas.
And
It lived underground, and it would kill people who violated housing, like a neighborhood administration.
Sort of like the Slenderman.
I guess. I guess, actually.
Actually,
It wasn't scary, though. It was just stupid.
I actually think X-Files was half the reason I have so much child trauma. Actually, just a fun little story now. I have an X-Files book here with me in Stetson, and I opened it up a few days ago, and a picture fell out. It was an old picture of this beach house or something, and there's a kid staring directly at the camera, and that kid's not me.
Wow.
So I'm like destined to solve some murder mystery case because
Pretty
it
cool.
is the X-Files, you know.
Yeah.
But back on to what I was talking about. It's infiltrated us so far that we don't know the difference between reality and dreams. We don't have our stuff, and I will be talking actually about tulpas in a future episode because those are very scary, and I have met a few people who do have tulpas, subconscious
Really?
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Once again, not all tulpas are bad, but the misuse of them is really bad. So
Makes sense.
I'm gonna ask everyone not to try getting a tulpa ever, and I'm gonna ask everyone not to try lucid dreaming because that is very dangerous as well.
Not to let your tulpa try lucid dreaming. That would be like the worst.
Let your tulpa try lucid dreaming while you lucid dream about lucid dreaming.
Wow. What would even be the point of that?
Inception. Just for the fun of it, I guess. I know you're looking just like I am, aren't you? We keep looking at the viewer count once in a while. We like seeing that there's 9 people listening in. Thank you very much for listening in, guys. I used to listen to 2 people randomly talk about tulpas and Slenderman. I mean, just keep looking at the screen. Whatever you're doing, keep looking at the screen. Do not look behind you, and whatever you do not blink. Unless you really want to blink, which in that case, run. All right, so that was my personal story about my personal experience with the boogeyman, aka my mother's hand on my thigh, when she tried to calm me down when I was sleeping at the age of 5.
Don't forget you wanted to talk about forests and coloring of...
And the coloring, yeah.
Okay.
And the coloring. Let's do the coloring now, because I think the forest will be the more fun part at the end.
Okay.
And once again, if you guys have anything to add into this, please call in at any time. I've given you the phone number plenty of times already.
I think
if
you
you
should
want,
do it again.
yeah, okay. Actually, you know what, Madeline, you do it. Why not? Because
Oh, gosh.
they've heard my voice so many times right here.
Okay. 386-822-8770.
Yep, you heard it from Madeline, guys. Feel free to call in at any time. And thank you, Vince and Thomas, for calling in before. All right, so we're going to continue on with the coloring of the Slender Man, or the coloring of myths, actually, in general. What I like about a lot of these scary myths is it often has the color black. And we can see this with the X-Files. The X-Files are all black, for example. Every single one was black.
Plus Mulder's coat.
Plus Mulder's coat, but the coat was cool.
Yes.
Trench coats are cool, guys.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things I do for Slenderman. Slenderman wears a black suit. Oftentimes, death is in the black cloak. And I think that this has some deep meaning, because we usually see death as black. That sounds wrong. That sounds horrible, actually. We usually see death covered in black and in the shadows. And I love to reference the darkness and the shadows often. But why is black such a negative color? We just saw, for example, Slenderman as having white eye bulges, for example. Like, instead of eyes, he had white spheres. Why do we always see why do we always see the bad things as black and the good things as white? That's my question. What do you think, Madeline?
Because people are afraid of the dark. Because in the dark, there are things that you can't see, and that makes it scarier. So black represents darkness. I don't know. It's just you can't see through it, so it's
So it's
mysterious.
sort of like an Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm making so many bad references today.
Communism was scary, so I guess that works.
This is a horrible pun day today. But in all reality, the color black has had a very, very big significance in our human culture. We always see black as in for despair and white as in a savior. But what I really love is when you look at the colors and you look at them physically, actually, the lighter colors that you see as normally bad colors, like blue or hot colors, actually as red, are actually very cold colors.
Really?
Literally, because the light, because the faster light waves go, the hotter it is, the more energy it has. So red light is on the lower spectrum of the visible light. So it's literally a cold color. And blue light, which is on the higher spectrum, is literally a hot color.
Wow.
So what I'm curious about is even when you have flames, in the center of all the flames, you have a white-blue flame, the hottest of the hot. The red flame is nothing compared to the blue flame. That's where the real heat is. And yet we still see burning as a red-orange thing. Even though we clearly see the red and orange, there's also the clear blue and white in the flame. Literally, light a match. You might even see it if you get the flame hot enough. Or start a fire in your backyard, in a fire pit, in a
Set
fire
your neighbor's
pit,
house on fire, you know.
in a
Whatever.
controlled environment with your parents.
Arson.
Yeah, if you're under
With
18.
your parents.
With your parents. If you're under 18, with your parents. If you're over 18, with the fire marshal. I don't trust you anymore. But literally, the color blue is actually the hottest color that we could see. And well, purple technically. And the color red is literally the coldest color, and yet their meanings are completely switched. So I wonder if that is a similar case scenario with white and black, with yin and yang, stuff like that. We always have the evil and the good and evil. But what if we actually just simply mix them up, you know? Because sometimes the unknown is what we want. Sometimes we want like, for example, a friend. We don't want to know everything about them. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but I mean, if you just say like that's, I don't know, because I mean, there's not enough evidence like in history, like, because I don't know what you're really like where you're going with that, but I mean, so often white is good and like dark is bad, but I mean, is that, I don't know. I mean, is there any point to like reversing it, or is it just like in specific instances it happens to have been reversed?
That's a good question. I don't even know that answer. That's what I'm wondering. Why is it that even though it's dark, why is it that these colors are so strong in their abilities and in their symbolism as a whole? Because you see a whole bunch of different things. In different cultures, brown actually means death. If you take a look at some people who claim aura seeing abilities, they say when you have a brown aura, you're about to die. That's what they say, you know? Or because of the color of the leaves that die, they're brown. So what I want to know is, why is black death not brown, and why is white always so good? Because you could always be blinded and, you know, by the light, literally blinded by the light.
Please don't sing.
I'm not. You're blinded by the light and then you sort of die. You know what I'm saying? Or you're carried off.
But light, like white represents light and daytime is nice, and nothing dangerous like sneaks up on you in the daytime.
Except for stalkers.
Yeah, but I mean, you could see them if you happen to look around and notice the same car's been on your street all day or whatever. But like at
Same
night,
big
like
white van.
you can't see. Well, okay, there is a case where white is actually bad. So
Big white van.
But you can't see things at night, so even if you're looking around, like, you still can't tell what's happening. So I think that, like, that's why black has to be bad and white has to be good, like, because it's light. And light makes you feel better. Even if you're still in the same, like, equally bad situation and you turn on a light, you're like, okay, I can deal with this now. Or, you know, not, depending on how bad it is. But it helps. Like, it makes you feel better even if it's not really that helpful. So, I don't know. I think that's just too deeply ingrained in our culture to change.
All comes back to the culture. That's what I like about it. Thank you very much, Madeline. Okay. Thank you very much for that input, Madeline. That was very insightful. Thank you. But for right now, we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna talk about the forest, because that's also something I really wanted to talk about. As you see in every single Slenderman myth we went over today, or most of them actually had to do with the forest. And even with fairies, we're talking about the mythical fairies. Yeah, little people with wings and
Evil
cutesy
people.
little people with wings and tutus and shit like that.
Well, it depends on what myths, because sometimes they're evil.
Exactly.
Really
I was about to go
evil.
right
Okay.
into that. Fairies, especially once again in Germany. Germany has so many messed up myths. I mean, come on. We're going to be going on actually about the Disney myths from Germany next week with a friend of ours, Carrie. Yep, I just heard that. Yep.
Excited.
So we will be talking about the grim stories with Carrie next week, and then after that we'll be talking about some other stuff with Matt Gherkin the week after. But for right now, let's concentrate on this. What I want to know is why is it so synonymous with the forest that has to do with Death of the Unknown? Obviously, you can't see much through the forest, but if you're looking throughout movies, you have, for example, I believe the movie was called The Forest, where there's this little civilization in a
Forest.
forest, and this little civilization had people, sort of like a Amish town. There's no technology, but it wasn't Amish because they had no connection with the outside world. They didn't know what
Wait,
technology
the
was.
Village or something? Is that what you're talking about?
Was that it?
I don't know. There's a movie where they like painted things on someone's door. Is that what you're talking
Oh,
about?
that might be it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I thought it was always called The Forest for
I
some
don't
reason.
know. I'm actually not 100% sure what it's called. I didn't see it.
If you know what it's called, call us.
Could probably Google it.
We can, but I mean, we want you to call us instead. Call us if you know the answer. If not, I'll Google it and I'll tell you next week. Or I'll post it on the official Facebook page. But that movie had the small little village inside the forest. And eventually, if a kid or a person wandered outside the forest, these weird creatures in yellow raincoats or yellow suits or something would chase after them. You never really you got a good glimpse of them once or twice, but I never really paid attention. I was like 7 years old at this point or something. And they'd catch them, and then apparently they'd kill them, I believe. And then a person would go missing, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, c'est la vie. They screwed up." And you'd have the watch on the watchtowers. And there's one blind woman who was the main heroine at this point. And she was sent off to go find civilization, brilliant, and just to wander right out of the forest because they said that whoever could see cannot escape the forest. I believe that's something along the plot line. And if someone could see, they just simply get lost in the forest, which I find very interesting. Why is someone who's blind, who has no sense of direction in comparison to someone who could see, able to get out of the forest and find a road and hitchhike, apparently her way to civilization? She never came back, apparently. And hitchhike her way to civilization, while someone with perfect sight or
I wouldn't either.
near
I'd be
perfect-
like, you guys sent me out in the woods to die. I'm leaving.
Actually,
Suffer on your own.
I think she was chosen because she could not see. Because once again, he who could not see cannot go through the forest or something. But they actually needed medicine. They just didn't just throw her out because they're not that horrible people. I think maybe they are. I don't remember. But
You aren't really paying attention.
I wasn't really paying attention. But I should have paid attention. They made her leave because they needed medicine for a flu or something like that. And actually, the outside world at that point was just a myth to them. They're like, "Hey, go through the forest."
Was it set in modern times or like Middle Ages or when?
No, this was modern times.
Oh wow.
There were modern times in a secluded forest because some raincoat creatures were keeping them there. Which actually, in Japanese mythology, I believe there is something very similar to that. I'm not sure though, so I'll talk about it next. I'll talk about that another time, not next week. No, next week is all about the grim fairy tales. But there is a similar creature in Japanese mythology, which I also know is very interesting. But why is it that this one blind woman can make it through? And even if you see in Mythbusters, if you're blind, they did this test. If you cannot see and you walk straight, you will eventually start going in circles because you're not going to be able to know. You're not going to know sort of which direction you're going, and you're always going to try to overcompensate. Have you seen that episode of Mythbusters?
I have not.
Well, Mythbusters proved the fact that you basically cannot walk straight blindfolded, and then they drove.
Well, maybe you have to actually be blind because like your other senses are heightened, so maybe like that helps. But if you're just temporarily like not able to see, it doesn't help enough. I don't know.
I see what you're saying, but what happened was after a few maybe 50 meters, 100 meters, they started turning to one side or the other, and then they literally started going in circles. So they never really made it. But then they found a way to do it, because they said this was a forest myth. You could always get lost in the forest if you make turns. So then they did it without being blind in the forest, and they went in circles again. Brilliant, right? And then I believe it was Jamie, no, it was Adam, who found out brilliantly how to get past that. And at every tree, he made right angle turns. But obviously in the movie, she didn't make right angle turns.
Right.
I mean, she was running away from these creatures and tripped several times, lost her walking cane.
Aw.
And, oh yeah, I felt really bad for her too. And basically was sort of tortured by the fear.
Right.
But why is it that when people who could see go in, and even if they overcompensate, that this blind woman could come out? And why is it in culture that when you go into the forest, it's all about what you see and the horror of the forest? Why is the forest so full of horror when you have other creatures like elves, benevolent elves in mythology, druids and dryads, which oftentimes were benevolent, and fairies, which sometimes were benevolent to other beings? Why do we concentrate so much on the bad and make the forest so bad?
Well, I mean, there are like nice people outside, but if you go out at night, like you're afraid you're gonna get mugged. I mean, if you live in DeLand, I don't know.
In DeLand, just in DeLand, guys.
I mean, if you know, the dangerous things outweigh the positive things, because the positive things might not be there to protect you when the dangerous things are coming to attack you.
That makes sense.
Plus, werewolves live in the forest. That's pretty scary.
Werewolves live in the forest. We're not talking Twilight here, thank God.
No, they didn't live in forests. They lived in houses like people. They didn't live in the forest.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you know your Twilight.
I don't. Obviously, I don't obviously, but I don't know about you, Madeline.
I watched the riff tracks. They were funny.
The what?
The riff tracks?
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I'll tell you later.
Okay, that's cool. You tell me later. I just leave the viewers in suspense.
I bet they all know about it. You're the only one that doesn't.
Maybe so. But I just love how in every single myth we always have the forest being bad, even though there's so much good of it. In so many different cultures, Celtic culture, the forest is pretty good too. Wicca, for example, the forest is good. I don't know about Christianity actually. Does Christianity think the forest is good?
I'm not religious. I don't know.
I don't know. That's the one religion I actually didn't pay attention to for this show. That's horrible. That's really horrible.
I feel like most of the important stuff happened in the desert, so I don't really know what they think about the forest.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good point. Why is the desert so benevolent at that point?
Well, it's not. I mean.
Well, I mean,
know.
you have the good things happening in the desert within Christianity, but everything else, the bad things are happening in the forest. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
I mean, if you consider someone going out and starving for 40 days good and then coming back wiser, I don't know. Maybe you consider that good. I mean, he obviously survived. I think he did something really good. So, yeah, I don't know. If you consider that good or not, that's fine by you.
Sorry.
I mean, starving for 40 days is good, you know. All right. It's almost time to go. It's 10:02, but I don't think we want to go just yet. Do you want to go, Madeline?
I'm fine.
All right. So we're going to do a little bit more, and we're going to actually more correlate Death and Slenderman, because Slenderman's cool, and he's slender. And I'm pretty sure I could fit my whole pinky around him pretty easily.
Really?
No, not really.
Okay.
I have to meet him first, but I don't really want to meet him. Do you
But
want to
you
meet
don't
him?
think he's real?
Yeah, I don't know. He's real.
Okay.
What if he is real? What if he is right behind you right now?
Okay, you have to stop doing that, first of all. Second of all, you've changed your opinion since it started. At the beginning, you were like, I don't think he's real. Then you were like, maybe he's real. And now you're like, I don't know. So
I'm just having fun with it, is all. Maybe he is real. Maybe he's right behind you. I know. That's
Maybe you've been Slenderman the whole time. Yeah.
Anyways, that was the distortion of media that he's supposed to cause in contemporary myths. Anyways, let's go on back about death. Yay, death, guys. Let's have fun with death. So, Madeline, what do you think death is? I mean, personified. I want you to tell me everything you know about the personification of death.
What do you mean, like the guy with the
The
thing?
scythe and
Oh,
everything.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, just tell me what you think of the personification of death. How is it personified, and if it's personified? And once again, if any of the viewers have an opinion on this, feel free to call in and tell us how you think death is.
They're not viewers.
Well, they're viewing their iTunes bar saying, this is how long it's been playing.
They're probably not sitting there looking at it. Anyway, okay, personification of death. Death is like a guy or whatever, and he's wearing like a cloak, and you can't see his face. He probably doesn't have one, I don't know. And he carries like a farming tool. What is that? I don't know.
It's a
You
scythe.
say scythe? Okay, is that used for farming?
A sickle is
So,
used for farming. Sickles are a
Sweeping
lot
through
smaller
the
than.
wheat. Okay, so it's like a giant sickle?
Yeah. I
Aren't
guess
those
like a
round?
popsicle.
No, sickles are round.
Sickles
right?
aren't round.
Rounded?
Do you remember the sickle from the communist?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking
It's
of.
that's what it is. The scythe is very similar, but has a longer staff and a longer
What do you use
metal
those for?
part.
Just reaping?
Decapitation.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right, so
I thought
that
you just
guy,
say
he's got
good.
that. And he goes around and collects people. And I'm just thinking of the Python sketch from Meaning of Life, where they all eat the shellfish or whatever it is, and then death comes and they won't leave, and yeah. So death personified.
That's how it's often personified. It's personified as a person, skeleton creature, with a cloak, whatever, and a scythe. And back in the old days, he actually didn't even have a cloak, which he just a skeleton with a
Cloaks
scythe.
hadn't been invented yet.
Cloaks hadn't been invented yet. He definitely couldn't have a toga because that would imply partying.
Or Mediterranean climates.
Maybe. What if death was Mediterranean? Then people would hate Mediterranean.
Mediterranean?
Mediterranean.
Okay.
So what happens now is I think death and Slenderman sort of go hand in hand in a way with common culture. Death, Slenderman, as we said a few times before, had been reference of killing more than just a child or taking just a child, but in fact they killed the family because the journal entry, if you remember the journal entry, it said something along the lines of, I have to get my family out before we are killed.
Right.
And I think...
Implying that Slenderman wouldn't be able to find them if they moved, but if he's like, a mythical being or like a powerful mythical being, he could just find you. Right? Doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, that's what baffles me. Why do they think moving will simply solve the problem? And even in several ghost hauntings and stuff, which we'll talk about on another show, why do they always think it's just simply moving that will solve the problem? It's not always the case. I mean, guys, they're
Stupid old-timey
sentient
people.
beings too, they're sentient beings too, to a degree, if they, of course, exist, like Slenderman. Maybe he exists, maybe he doesn't, we don't know. But what I like about it is Death and Slenderman share similar aspects, especially when you go back to the really old Slendermans, when he actually was basically a skeleton. And the skeleton came with the hourglass and basically killed you or took you away in a very not friendly manner and disemboweled you.
He killed you, but in a friendly manner, so it's okay.
Killing with a smile. That'll be the new slogan for Slenderman. If you're listening to Marble Hornets, please put that as your new slogan. But overall, I think that Death and Slenderman sort of go hand in hand.
Now, if he had a smile, he would have to have a face.
Well,
Couldn't just be a smile that would look ridiculous. Nobody would be afraid of that.
I sort of like think of it as a Joker smile.
But that's already taken by the Joker.
But now the Slenderman can tell his story about the Slender Woman. He had a beautiful wife, and he said he was always too serious, and they took the knife, and anyways. So I think that Death and Slenderman often go... I said this like 10 times, so we keep getting off track.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's my fault too. So I guess that's basically it. Death and Slenderman sort of go together. And if you find it in several different cultures, like the Hellenic and the Celtic culture, sometimes death is even personified as an angel. The angel of death, obviously. And we saw that in one of the... in the journal entry again, the boy was screaming, "And angels come, and angels come." So we have to really see now, is Slenderman or is Death really, is he a good guy? Or is he a bad guy? Or is he just sort of like in the gray area in between, working for the good side, you know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, if you're the kind of culture that believes in, like, an actual figure that is death, that comes and, like, picks you up and takes you to the land of the dead, then you probably also believe in an afterlife. And if you're living how you're supposed to be living, well, like, why are people afraid of death? And why would Slenderman be bad then? Then it would seem like these should all be, like, positive things that help you go to the happy place that happens after the sucky Middle Ages life.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, if you live the way you want and you see death, and that's like, hey, I'm gonna take you away now. and you live the good life, you live whatever you want to say, a good moral life, whatever, why are you so scared to go with death when he might just bring you to heaven?
Right.
You know, why are you so scared to go to Slenderman when he might just disembowel you? He just might. I don't know. Then he brings you to heaven. Who knows? But when you think about it, oftentimes death is also the angel. Death is the angel of death, or death is just death. So why are we so scared of someone who's actually just doing something that, in the long run, if you believe in it, benefits us?
Plus, would happen anyway. I mean, if you believe in reality. So.
If you believe in reality, you might die. Yeah. So why are we so scared of a good thing? Or that's actually a good question. Why are we so scared of a good thing? Maybe it's because we're going to miss behind us. Maybe that's why people are so scared of death, because we leave so much behind, and maybe some of us have no legacy. Maybe some of us simply die and we haven't done what we wanted to do yet. The bucket list, you know?
But, I mean, if there's an afterlife, can't you just go be fulfilled in the afterlife? Or, I mean...
Or if I ever visit it, I'll make sure to tell you. But,
all right.
I don't want to visit it anytime
Send me
soon.
a sign.
I'll send you a text message. Because
Hey,
obviously,
it's Steph from heaven. Just letting you know. It's pretty cool here, actually. Just hanging out.
I got free 4G. Actually, not even that. You can actually pay for 6G now in heaven.
You have to pay for things in heaven? That's crap.
Well, Steve Jobs is there now. Apparently, so you might have to pay for a new Apple product in heaven too.
Wait, has he like co-opted heaven? They're like, Steve Jobs is here. Whoever's running this, give it to him. He has a better marketing plan.
We're gonna market heaven now as an Apple product. Use the Apple Store. I heaven. Speak to Steve Jobs and your relatives directly.
I don't think I'd want to talk to Steve Jobs. I'm not really that interested in him.
Yeah, neither am I.
Kind of mad at iPhone. Although I like iOS 7. It's pretty good.
You're the first person I heard that actually said that.
Really? I enjoy it.
Most people are saying they hate it.
No, it's okay.
Anyways, I've just gotten a story from not a viewer, a listener. And hold on, the listener is my friend Tori, and she goes. Well, first off, Tori, yes, you could call in anytime. But she goes to me, I got in trouble at work once because I told a kid the Slenderman might be real. I think that has to be one of the funniest stories I've heard in a long time. And if you do want to call in, Tori, you could call in, and I'm pretty sure you just got the phone number 10 times, but one more time.
It starts with 386, right?
And then it sort of goes on with 822.
822 770. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And apparently she thinks the iPhone 5S is cute. I don't know.
Oh, I don't have the iPhone 5. I have no.
No, that was on my friend.
Okay, I'm saying I'm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you think the iPhone's cute, but we're so scared of a good thing, and I think that's a little messed up, I guess. And Slenderman, he's fun, just wants to disembowel you, just like how Yes, that's the number, Tori. You can stop text messaging me, and you can just simply call. But I think that's about it for the show. If you guys want to call in while we're here for the next probably 5 minutes to accept any calls, feel free to call in at any time. We will be. Are you willing to answer any questions that people might have for you, Madeline?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so call in one more time at 386-822-8770.
I've memorized your phone number now.
Yeah, but it's not my phone number; it's the school's phone number.
It's not? I was so excited.
Oh my
I'm
God.
gonna call Steph all the time. I have your phone number.
You have my phone number.
I do.
You've had it since last year, and you never called me in the summer when I called you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just call in if you'd like. After that, I'm going to put on the music, and we're going to be going back into the night shift with these songs. If you guys don't know, this is actually Stetson Radio has a ongoing playlist of songs all the way from Russian techno to Billy Joel and.
I hate Billy Joel.
You don't like Billy Joel?
I don't like Billy Joel.
And I guess.
Or Russian techno, for that matter.
All right. Well, what about Russian techno?
I don't
No,
like it.
you don't like Russian techno either. All the way from Billy Joel to Queen and stuff like that. So if you guys want to listen in, keep listening in. It's a good it's a good thing to listen to if you're really bored. I mean, other than my show, obviously, you should be listening to my show, and maybe Madeline will come on here again if you like Madeline a lot.
Hi.
Hi, Madeline. So thank you very much for viewing. I am going to be podcasting this, hopefully. I really do hope so. I've learned how to. I have archived it, and it's archiving right now. I see it saving itself, so I'm really, really happy. So for all those listeners who couldn't listen, like my current RA and a lot of my friends, I thank you very much for your patience. I know it didn't archive the last 2 shows. Do you want to say anything before we go, Madeline?
I've had a really good time, and I hope to be on again.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope you all have a great night.